Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, you have to sleep harder, stuff like, oh, that was bad. Anyways, okay, hello. Back to another Ko-fi update after the vacation, or my vacation. It's been good. Like, having a kid going on vacation can be quite stressful because you spend all day together. And our daughter is, she's not having her nap anymore. We're kind of like in that transition from napping a couple of hours a day to not doing that at all, which is a big transition for us as well. And just being with a ton of family, and yeah, but lots of great memories. Been relaxing a bit as well. Also been doing some coding, which I'm going to talk about. So yeah, I also thought about the format of this Ko-fi update. So now I'm going to split it up into 3 parts: freelance, open source, and tools and inspiration. So that will help me structure things a bit more, and I'm going to try not to talk too much about stuff, because I get inspired and I like to talk, but I think I explain stuff. So let's try this. Okay, so now I'm like really officially going 100% freelance, working 6 hours a day, which fits perfectly with the family, and I actually feel a lot more productive working 6 hours a day. Which is awesome. And what I'm working on is the Code Sandbox refactor, of course, but I'm also working on a presentation I'm having next week for the Code Sandbox team, talking a little bit about the history of state management in Code Sandbox, because I worked on a refactor there to Cerebral, and now working on another refactor to Overmind. How we think about state, what kind of application it is, a bit of history, and yeah. It's going to be really cool. I also have a couple of announcements soon related to work I do as a freelancer, but also a personal project. So just wanted to mention that. Hopefully I can talk more about that in the next video. I've also been reading this book, Feel Better Fast and Make It Last. Like, ugh, I hate those kinds of titles, like Think Positive and stuff. But it's like, it's important to reflect on how you work and act, your mood and everything. Like, do you live your life the way you want to live it? And to make change, you need some sort of inspiration. And some people find inspiration like through watching like inspiration videos from movie stars like The Rock or Arnold Schwarzenegger, or like, you have to sleep harder, stuff like, oh, that was a bad Arnold. Anyways, and that's great. Like, if you feel inspired to make better decisions every day, or make big decisions in your life, that's great. And other people find these kinds of things in more spiritual things, it being like meditation kinds of things, or like more religious stuff. That's also great. But I need some science in there. Like, that's what inspires me. And this guy, like, being a spiritual guy, actually, he is also a doctor, and he knows a lot about the brain and how outside influences in terms of people you meet, what you eat, stimulus from social media, and all, like, if you experience some trauma, coffee, alcohol, drugs, how does this actually affect your brain, like in science terms? And that is really cool. And what got me into this book, first of all, was because he also said he hates these just think positive and you'll do great. So yeah, I've been looking into this book, and I've done quite a few things to like reflect on what I want to do, and made some changes already. So just to quickly go through it, I've been drinking a lot of coffee, and coffee isn't really that bad for you. But if you drink a lot of coffee, it affects your ability to focus and basically being productive. So I only take a couple of cups of coffee in the morning, and then I rather drink tea. I also need to move more, like in terms of moving my body. So I'm trying to take these walks where I listen to a podcast. It's just healthy to increase the blood flow in your body, which also increases the blood flow in your brain. And most importantly, I've stopped using my phone during the day, because in your brain you have this reward system, and if it's overflowed, your general mood drops. So specifically, if you use Facebook, Twitter, other kinds of, even if you just go on YouTube and you find something that, oh, this is perfect for me, like it's a reward, but in the long term, it's not a reward, because it's a drug. And with drugs, you get the high when you take the drug, but then generally you feel worse. So I'm like blocking sites on my computer. I just don't. Whenever I've usually picked up my phone, I've figured out other things to do instead, which I'm just conscious about. So for example, instead of when I lie down on the couch because I'm tired, I don't pick up my phone. I pick up my Kindle, and I read something instead. I just made that decision because I know it's better for me. But anyways, also just check with your doctor. Like, is everything okay? Do you have the vitamins you need? Are your hormones in balance and stuff like that? All this stuff affects your mood and your productivity and everything. Like here in Norway, especially in Trondheim and further north, everybody has a vitamin D deficiency because we don't get that much sun and it's cold up here. And just take those freaking vitamins. Just some kind of supplement to make sure that you get what your body actually needs. And then it's in terms of procrastination. I've been thinking about this as well. Because for me, there are two types of procrastination. You have the type of procrastination that I like, which is I have an idea or I met a problem, but I don't know where to start. I don't even have a suggestion on how to solve it. And instead of just sitting there banging my head on the wall or the table, I just drop it and I put it in the back of my mind, because that part of my mind is much smarter than my conscious mind. And it might take a couple of days, but then something pops up and I at least have a suggestion on how to move on. That's a good procrastination. But then there's this bad procrastination, which happens every day. So for example, installing an NPM package. It takes like 30 seconds or even less, but you're not doing anything. So you feel this urge to be productive or whatever that urge is, and you jump onto Twitter or your email or you check your phone or something. And that is not good. It's not good to jump into another context. And it's not good to get these rewards as you usually jump to when you're waiting for something like that. So instead, what you do is just get up from your chair and stretch or something. Go get a glass of water. It's not like changing the context. You're just doing something that your body actually needs. If you can go outside, like here, I can go out on the porch and just take in some air, which is good for you. Going on Twitter, it's not good for you. Anyways, that was a lot about freelance, but yeah, I've been reflecting a lot over the summer, so I just wanted to talk about this. Let's move on to open source. So during the summer, I did some coding and I built a new blog. Because the good people over at Zeit has this service called Next.js, which is really awesome. It's based on React, and you get so much for free, like server-side rendering and everything. Highly optimized applications, but they have been missing a few features that blocked me from using it. So for example, now with the latest version 9, you have dynamic URLs, which is important if you need a blog. You could solve it before, but it wasn't like, now it's an official feature. They also have an API. So you can, just like you create pages, you can create an API. So for example, RSS. So people can get updated when I release or publish new articles or videos. The really cool thing is that I combine this with the Now service, which is also from Zeit. So whenever I push to this repo, which is open source, it deploys to production, and it does it within a minute or something. It's insanely fast. And it just works. It's a joy to work with. Yes, sorry. I've also been started working on a new guide for Overmind, but more like an official get started guide, where you're going to build an app, and I take parts of the other guides, like defining state, organizing the app, connecting components. I put that, like, tidbits of those guides into this main guide. So you kind of like get a full overview of everything while you're building an app. And then I can reference the guides for more deep understanding of defining state, creating lists and stuff like that. So that should give you a better overview of how Overmind works and what kind of like the concept is, hopefully. I also have quite a bit of backlog stuff related to open source, Cerebral stuff, lots of plans for Overmind. Also Marksy had a couple of issues, but like I have about an hour a day to work on this stuff, and I'll just work on it. I don't feel stressed. That's something I've learned through many years of open source now. Nothing, there's no emergency in open source. Just relax, set some time, keep moving. Like through the summer, 3 weeks, no problem. Yeah, really glad I gotten to that place. Anyways, let's move on to tools and inspiration. So one thing that's part of this brain thing I talked about is that you can actually not just make sure that you give your mind and your body what it needs, but you can also train your brain. It's kind of weird that we kind of know this, like you have Sudoku and stuff like that, but compared to training your body, like your muscles, which is like you can see that your muscles grow and you can run faster and stuff like that, but it's harder to see progress in your brain, and that you can actually train your brain to improve your memory, your attention, like flexibility, problem solving and stuff like that. But people have been researching this for ages, and Lumosity is one app that has a bunch of games that helps you improve these different brain skills. And it's like the app itself, like it's just amazing. Every day you get like, it chooses 5 games based on the skills you want to improve, and then you just do them. And what I really like is that every day it asks you, what's your mood? How many hours of sleep did you get? And this is really important to feel that progress. As I said, I can't see my muscles growing or anything, but what I can see is my mood improving? Am I getting enough hours of sleep? Which is super, like that's the goal. The goal is to sleep well and have a better mood. So it's really cool, and the games are fun, and you see improvements, and you can compare yourself to the other 90 million people who also uses this app. So I definitely encourage you to do that, but don't just use the app. Reflect on everything else. Like you have to have the basis first, and then Like you have to eat and drink to go to the gym, and you have to do the right thing. Like make sure you do the right thing for your brain before you start training it, kind of. Anyways, sorry if I come off as this coachy person here, but yeah, I was inspired by this, and I've been really critical to stuff like this. This is the first time it really hit me, so I wanted to share it. Anyways, some coding stuff. Framer, the company with like the Framer X, which was released not too long ago, now has a Framer Motion. So all the animation stuff in Framer X has been put into its own library called Framer Motion, which is the API is amazing. I haven't tested it, but the API is really, really excellent because it uses the approach as style components. You have your own elements, which has some additional properties, and it's super expressive and super simple to get stuff running. So I definitely recommend doing that. Finally, I just want to mention Flutter and Firebase again. If you have some idea or just want to try native development, just install Flutter, set up a Firebase project, and just get on with it. It's insanely simple. And also with this Flutter Observable State library I created, you get some introduction to how you can organize your app, so you don't get into issues when you just want to build your app, but then you have to restructure everything because you're trying to share state where it's not available and all that stuff. And you have to write a ton of code because you have to write all these stateful widgets, which you don't really need. And yeah, so I just want to press that because it's a lot of fun to work on, and it can actually make a difference for you if you are actually able to realize one of these ideas, which is an app, which means that you can use that app every day, and maybe even you can earn a little bit of money on it. Okay, thanks. Talk to you next week.